and welcome to the New Property Show. I'm Steve McMenamin. On this show,
Mustafa and his journey to becoming a real estate agent. Our panel will talk about their worst and best deals, but first Rory talks to Sceona on accounting.
Sceona, welcome to the New Property Show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rory.
Love to hear a bit more about what you do.
Okay, I'm an accountant, business accountant, deal with anything to do with accounting, taxation and advisory.
Fantastic. And not only obviously advising your clients on all different journeys in property, but you're actually going through it yourself right now. You're building your own owner-occupied property. I'm sure that comes with its ups and downs. Love to hear about
Very big ups and downs, mostly downs at the moment, except for the budget, which is blown out completely.
Right.
Time's blown out. It's been over 2 years and we're still at the tail end, but that comes with its own set of complications with the insurer not wanting to renew any insurance, which means I'm kind of stuck with a new policy that's going to cost me a lot of money for only a few months. So
insurers will unfortunately do that.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
We're getting to the end now. So when you're hoping to be in?
Hoping by October.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So thinking back a couple of years ago, and it was a time to build, what would have you done differently, you think, over that journey?
Firstly, I probably would have waited a little bit because it was just post-COVID, or the first part of COVID in 2021, and I thought it might be a good idea. I didn't think we'd go into another lockdown. Then we had all sorts of delays, supply shortages, labour shortages, which just extended the time out, and obviously then the budget. So yeah, I probably would have waited and hired a really good builder. I tried to do it as an owner builder and got stuck.
That would come with its absolutely own challenges. So take us through that, trying to be an owner builder. What was what did you learn through that process?
I learned how difficult it can be to find really good people to do the job, to actually be able to have someone to rely on to get the job done in a really fast manner, and also the best quality trade. So doing it as an owner builder, you're kind of caught by who you know. And if they're not up to scratch or they don't coordinate properly with other trades, it just blows everything out. Well,
just think about the housewarming that's coming up real soon. So let's just flip now to your professional life, being an accountant. So dealing with people and advising people on all manner of property, which is amazing. And I think that we've really got three phases. When you're buying a property, you're holding a property, and then you're selling a property, and they all come with their own challenges. And I think that people can do that really well, or not get the advice and maybe not do so well. So starting at the purchase, you can buy in different entities, you can buy different asset classes, you can develop, you can do lots of different things. What are you seeing at the moment, and what conversations are you having around that with your clients?
So from when they decide to actually buy a property, they'll come to me and we'll discuss what they're trying to gain out of that. So what structure would be best for them. If they're doing a small development with other people, a certain structure will suit that. If they are an individual investor, then they may decide whose name, if they're a couple, the property might go in to have the best, say, tax advantages. So what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of my clients in building and developing coming through, and things have just changed a bit. I've got one client at the moment who bought two side by side. Council are really dragging their feet with approvals. That client's now stuck with really difficult time with finance as well. So they're looking now at flipping one property and then developing the other property. So it's just challenging times for people in the property market at the moment.
How about residential and commercial? Are you seeing one or the other for certain people?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some people that like to have a mix of properties because it just makes a good portfolio. Obviously, with commercial, you get a higher rate of return every year, and the tenant looks after the property. They do the repairs and maintenance. They operate their business from it. So generally, it's well taken care of. And then residential, you generally get higher capital growth. So people like it for that reason. I've seen quite a few clients wanting to go into the commercial side because residential, with all the compliance that's going on at the moment, the annual compliance, keeping up with that, there's a lot of people wanting to divest their investment properties, and with agents that I'm speaking to, they're all saying the same thing.
Okay. Now, how about through the hold? Obviously, you've got how interest payments are treated. You've got depreciation. What are you seeing there, and what sort of advice and conversations you're having around that?
Yep. So, the holding cost side is a big one, especially with land tax at the moment. I'm having a lot of conversations with everybody being a little bit caught out by the state government in Victoria changing the threshold down to 50,000. So that's a big concern for a lot of people that own properties. There are many clients that are looking at negative gearing if they hold properties in their own name. Many clients, the holding costs are a big consideration at the moment because interest has gone up so much. The other, compliance costs have all gone up. So during that period, you've got depreciation. They generally get certain items that may not be depreciable. They try to write off things that are actually should be depreciated. They try to write them off as repairs and maintenance. Right. A lot of people are very interested in depreciation, and you can get reports done so that you can write off the capital value of your plant and equipment as well as the capital cost of the asset.
Right.
What a lot of people don't realise is that when it comes time to sell the property, the amount that you have depreciated the asset actually reduces your cost base. So you will end up paying capital gains tax on that.
So get the right advice?
Absolutely, always.
And then so going to the sale then, obviously that brings up its own challenges as well when you want to get rid of a property and the implications of that with potentially GST or in what year you want to bring a sale into. Yep. So what are you seeing in that?
I'm seeing people always concerned about the capital gains implications and wanting to make sure that they can reduce them as much as possible. So that's a big consideration because it may mean that if there's not much equity in the property, that most of the profit ends up going to tax and they might decide to hold on for a little bit longer. Okay. So that's the primary consideration. With GST, if there's if it's a new development, a lot of clients actually get confused that they need to, if it's a new property, they need to charge GST and they haven't factored that into their calculations. Good. So there are always issues, and again, it's about getting the right advice around those issues.
So we're heading into some unusual economic times, I suppose, and which brings its own challenges for a lot of people. So if you can touch on what sort of advice you're giving to maybe businesses or people just to get themselves ready if we do, and I don't want to mention the word, if we do head into recession or at least, a bit of a downturn in the economy. Yeah.
Look, with my business clients, we are hitting difficult times. They're noticing that people are still spending, but they're stretching out the spending. So they're not as regular with their spend as they used to be. I always tell them that with every downturn, there's usually about 10 to 15 years of economic growth. Sure. So use this time to prepare, use this time to look at the way you're structured, look at your expenses, look at your costs, look at things like going to your mortgage broker to refinance because you might be able to get a better deal. Yeah, so by doing that, you can help to increase your bottom line. The other side of it would be maybe don't switch off some of your marketing so that you've got some good lead generation coming in.
Sure.
So just those kind of strategies to keep them afloat while we're heading into what could possibly be, a recession or close to a recession.
Sure. And I suppose if people are lucky enough to be able to take some opportunities that a downturn presents, that it could be a good time to look out for those too. So,
absolutely.
Sceona, been amazing to have you on the New Property
Thanks
Show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rory.
Welcome to the New Property Show, Mustafa. Young, aspiring 21-year-old real estate agent and been in sales now for 3 years. It's incredible.
It is. Yeah. It's been quite a journey itself so far, and thank you for having me on so far, Steve. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us. How you started selling real estate around about the age of 18?
Yeah, I actually went to uni for about 2 weeks. Yeah. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't to be honest, get in $80,000 of debt and then start my career. I actually, as soon as I was 18, I was like, yep, I need to do a job that's maybe commission based, something that keeps me on my toes 24/7.
And how'd you get your first gig? What did you do?
I honestly went on Seek. And I just started applying for jobs. I think it's just about opportunities. If you don't ask, you don't know, And I just started going after jobs, just emailing them, messaging them. Actually, the first one I got, they wouldn't reply to my calls or my texts, so I actually called them as a customer. And then they got back to me and they're like, oh, that was a pretty creative idea of getting away with us, and they hired me. Yeah, so that was a pretty creative way. So just an opportunity that I created.
Recently hired an appointment setter that way.
Really?
I left her my details and then I let her follow me up. And I was a little bit hard to get hold of. I was genuinely busy. But I figured if she can catch me, she can definitely catch my clients. So
for sure.
I think the art of the sale is really the interview, is actually chasing down to make the time, allocating the time, and then offering value. Apart from selling real estate, you get to dress up for work, you get to speak to a lot of clients. What's most fulfilling about that role?
Most fulfilling, I would say, helping people like purchase their dream homes, or I think property is always a great place to buy if it's new properties, especially, or even old properties. A property value always goes up. It's always good to get in property. So it's helping people, create their dreams. It's definitely a rewarding career. And for me, especially, like any conversation can turn into opportunity. I can talk to a survey guy. I can go talk to somebody down the street, and it can turn into opportunity down the line.
What about, this is something we haven't really touched on here, but I think branding is so important. How important is it to get people to then follow you on social media and follow them back and engage? Because you actually get to know the way that you meet people nowadays is different. It's all about Instagram handles and Snapchat and everything else as well. What about personal brand? How important is that to you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a new age of real estate now. It's I think that people buy off people and sell or give their homes to sell to people that have personality or that like them. It's just not just about results. At the end of the day, it's people. If you're trustworthy, if they really like you, they're going to give you a home to sell or buy something off you. And social media is a big way to do that. Show your lifestyle, show who you are really as a person. Not just I've sold this, I've this to this, but the person you are too.
Some of the business I've done with people hasn't been in formal settings. There's a mentor and a friend of mine that I caught up with recently, and hard person to get hold of. And what we did is we went for a swim, hung out with his kid, we spoke for a few hours, and we built a relationship just in like unusual circumstances, I guess.
Yeah.
But that because you've spent time with their family, I actually find that leads to opportunity. So I guess my question there would be to you, have you ever stayed and had dinner with a client, or have you had breakfast, or have you met him at the gym? So maybe a story there.
Yeah, I actually have. It was once where I was just letterbox dropping, and this was my very early starting career. And I saw a lady. She was a Muslim lady. She was just picking up a kid from school, and then met her. Went to her house. She invited me for an appraisal. It was nothing. I think it was she didn't want to sell in that current market. And then Ramadan period came. That was the period where we fast, all that stuff. And she actually invited me over to her house to eat some food with her, open her iftar with her. And then, I made a good connection with them. And when it came to time for them to sell and for them to move locations, she called me. And so that was a really good connection I made just from letterbox dropping, just from being open, being honest to them, talking about religion in general. And that turned into a transactional deal.
So anyone that's young that's watching, what's the 5 or 6 things behind the scenes that you must do as a real estate agent to actually be successful?
I think the biggest one is probably consistency. Staying positive, definitely on your toes. So because in real estate, you're in real estate yourself, Steve. There's a lot more negative days than positive days. The work is this much, and the success is this much. Like, for example, I might be out all week prospecting, and I might get 0 results. But doing that one more every time I get a no, that might turn into something else. So I think if you stay consistent, stay positive, be real to yourself, you'll definitely get results in real estate. It's
really, it's almost a discussion with like pumping the well. So you've just got to stay at it, and then eventually you're gonna harvest. So I think the consistency is also keeping you sharp. I think you need to be well spoken. The other thing too is let's talk about mentors. Who do you look up to in the industry that inspires you to do better?
People don't really talk about him. There's actually a bit of negative reviews about him, but his name is Zed. I actually think he's a really good real estate agent because he's based in eastern suburbs in Melbourne. However, I know everyone knows his name. That says something about him, even though he might be whatever person he might be, but his name, his character is showing, and he's selling real estate. Yourself too, Steve, joining Lux as well. It's definitely been helpful. I see you guys are obviously a lot of mentors in there helping me through real estate as well.
I think most importantly too, surrounding yourself with a team, a finance team, a team of experts as well would be there. So What about, I don't know, maybe 2 years from now? Do you plan to own your own franchise? Do you plan to get an assistant? What would that look like for you?
I think assistant will be definitely on the line. I haven't really thought about a franchise, but definitely, working on the business instead of in the business would be a big one for me. And just definitely growing and expanding it across Melbourne. Yeah, that would be definitely down the lines for me.
Quick question then to do with sales then. What's the most amount of calls you made in a day?
Most amount of calls I made in a day. I've never tallied it up.
Yeah.
I think it would be close to 200. And that's a mix of buyer calls, prospecting calls. When you're in the zone, you just can't stop. You just got to keep going. Can't let distractions get in the way, yeah.
So it could be AM for prospecting and then it could be PM for showing homes.
Yeah.
That's it. And are you still doing the opens on a Saturday morning and auctions?
I am. I'm doing opens on Saturdays. Sundays are actually really good days for opens as well.
Yeah.
You got to cater around people. Some days during the week are good opens as well. People work all the time. They're busy doing their lives, so you got to cater to them.
I did hear about a guy named Josh from Sydney that couldn't get one of his clients to sign a contract, so he went around there at about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Flashed his lights into their lounge room, and then knocked on their door and did the deal.
Oh, wow.
Now, as I said, it could be considered forceful, but I think what's important though is the deal gets done. Okay, and last one would be: would any tips for negotiating to get a better price if you're the customer?
To get a better price, I think you got to be very honest in a deal. I think that's the main one, and just show them the pros and the cons from it, because every deal has its pros and its cons. If you show them honestly and openly, and if the pros outweigh the cons, then the deal will get done. You'll get a better price on it, and you show them that there is a benefit from it. The deal will definitely get done at a better price.
Fantastic. You've been an inspiring young guest. Look forward to seeing you back here over the years, and thank you so much for joining us on the New Property Show.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome back to the New Property Show. Thanks for joining us on the panel. What we wanted to discuss this week was not about other people's deals, but maybe a deal that you've done that's either giving you joy, a success story, or led you into another deal. Talk to us about the deal that's really sort of stuck by you.
I'll tell you a personal story. So my first home, I bought it with the intention to put plans and permits to redevelop. I actually put plans and permits, and instead of going traditional route and selling through just one agent going through an auction, I actually went to 3 different real estate agents. So this may seem pretty bad, but and I said, you guys got one chance to bring the best developer through. Here's all the plans and permits, and see if they wanted to purchase the property. They all came through, and then one called and said, I'll give you X amount. I said no, called the other agent, said that. So I played them all off. In the end, ended up getting, for what I budgeted for, 150 over what I wanted, which allowed me to get into a better area, bigger house for the family.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And it's about I guess it is about the art of negotiating.
Definitely.
End of the day, you're playing to win.
Yes.
And I think there's nothing wrong. You've been fair.
Yep.
You've given them one chance.
Yep.
And you've got what you wanted. And somebody's also earned the sale.
Definitely.
So on the other end, congrats.
Thank you.
Therese?
Yeah, so I think, and I'm going to give you 2 examples because I think they contrast really well. So I would say personally, the best acquisition I made was in Adelaide. I was living there at the time. Location-wise, eastern suburbs, 5 kilometres from Adelaide CBD. Bought well. Spent a tiny bit of money on renovations because it was a really great house. It was built in the 50s. It had had one owner. So double brick, awesome. Didn't spend too much. Sold that property when we moved to Melbourne, tripled our money in under 5 years. So that was great. But I contrast that with a superior house, new build, only about 3 years prior to that. That was in Cairns, backed onto World Heritage Rainforest. Absolutely pristine, amazing location. But that one, we held that property for almost 10 years, made virtually bugger all on that property. And that's the thing about population size, it's about local economies. And I think those are 2 really good stories about where you buy, how long you hold, and also, I suppose, the local economy. So they're my two stories. Adelaide was a great acquisition story. Cairns not so much.
What about you, Ravi?
Great story there. I migrated here in 2008, and around maybe 1 year I'm here studying, doing my work. I woke up, look at the wall, and I was like, why am I paying somebody else rent? Yeah? And I'm student visa, no financial setup at that stage. I'm talking about in 2009. I decided to buy a property and pay for my own rent. That house has, of course, doubled by now, but has my kids grown up, born in there. I have moved on from there for sure. But what I relate to that is that I wasn't scared of having the interest rate high because I was an international student and things like that. I was literally looking at the property, which I believe land and property will never go out because people will grow, not the land. Land not going to grow. So we look at that, and there was simple logic of that. I was able to acquire that and has double fold now. From there, where I am now, I do purchases, properties, lands, things like that. And I think I was able to just use the capital of that building into the
So one deal into another.
That's right, yeah.
Fantastic. What about yourself?
Yeah, look, we've all heard the expression, the debate about timing the market or time in the market. We've all heard that one before. For myself, I was blessed to have the timing right. Probably about 8 years ago now. So I bought a property at auction in Sydney. I'd budgeted about $2 million for this property. I picked it up for 1.8, and then I sold it about 11 months later for 2.2. Just dumb luck. It was the easiest money I ever made in property. Spent nothing on it, had a tenant in there, did nothing to it, picked up the gain. Yeah.
So what was the gain market with the stamp duty? Take off the stamp duty?
Yeah, you take all that out, take out the stamps, holding costs, what not. I would say at least 200 clear.
It's amazing. I did a deal once where I'd gone past a block of land and I just thought, it's pretty cheap. It was $138,000. So I decided I'll put an offer in. I rang the real estate agent, know the agent. I said I want to put an unconditional offer in, but I want $1,000 down and I want 6 months to settle. They accepted the offer on $1,000. On the 138, I got the buyer signed contract back and I reiterated, is this contract unconditional? Is this mine? She goes, yeah, it's yours, congratulations. I said, fantastic. I turned around and I walked back in. I said, hi, I'd like to put my land up for sale. So we then signed another contract and I resold that land for $189,000. It was about a $51,000 turnaround in about a 1 hour deal. Obviously there's some time to settle. Brought the settlement forward, did a simultaneous settlement, but basically made 51 grand off $1,000. And that's opportunity. What that led to later is I've now built a relationship with that agent, so she knows to call me before, and this is timing, before a deal goes to market. Turns out that there was 5 acres come up for sale, which was next door, so it is now 20 times bigger, and it wasn't in a residential zone, but I could figure it would get zoned. I picked up a paddock for 5 acres next door for $40,000. And that was definitely my best deal. 5 acres of land, residential, in a country town for 40 grand because they thought it was going to be a horse paddock. Years later, obviously a few other little things happened there, worth a lot more, which is good. So let's flip it. What's your worst deal? What deal have you done that you wish, geez, I wish I didn't do that one? Or have you got a client story?
I knew this was coming. I'll take it. I knew this was coming.
We made the show for you today, Joe.
I know you had in the past your first deal. Yeah. So my worst deal, it was my first deal. So this is back in the day, about 20 years ago. I did mention earlier, and I was brought up in the migrant family, and people grew up in farms, and they were like, house and land. It's all about house and land, and I had about 300 grand to spend. I wanted to buy an apartment, an inner city apartment or something with views, but I was told, no, get a house and land. So I had to go way out west. I bought a house and land. I paid $325 for it. 10 years later, it was still worth 325. So I got rid of it.
Yeah.
Worst one.
Over here? Any worst deals?
Not really a worst deal because I haven't put it to the sale or anything, but I had a property in Cranbourne with the subdivision was attached to the property when the agent sold me. And then later, after, because I'm a fast mover, I got the deal done, move on, early settlement, so on. And then we realized that the permit was subject to this, subject to that, and I'm like, bloody hell. So we got to work out all of that. So we're still going to do it, but I think it's going to come as not a right decision around that. So lesson learned, read everything what put on your table, and make sure that you are checking with legal aids and people around your team to make sure that you're signing the right thing.
You had a bad experience, anything?
Yeah, look, my first one, I did go over budget. The emotion of the auction really got to me, and I remember my wife holding my hand, and she was like, come on, and I had the agent in my ear as well, talking, saying, oh, you can go another, whatever. I'm like, and to be honest, I did go up.
You got sold.
I got sold. Luckily, I made a lot more money on the sale, and that was that property deal that I did. So it ended up being great, but at the start, my emotions went crazy. Probably the client story, the worst one I've seen or had was a client signed a contract sale without getting building inspection, and the house was really bad, built terribly, so many different issues with it, and the only way to get out of it was a massive negotiation, cost him an arm and a leg to get out of it, but that's why I always get things checked before purchasing.
Yourself?
Yes, so this is a cautionary tale for people that are thinking of getting out of a relationship. So my worst acquisition, it was an amazing spot, property with first practice husband. And so great location, like seriously 2.5 k's from Brisbane CBD. Basically renovated, but not completely renovated. And then we decided that probably we would be better off with other people, but lost money on that. So seriously, if you're going through a divorce, don't let the emotion where everybody wants to win and it's my property and I'll hang on to everything at all costs. Nobody wins with that. Call it quits, liquidate as soon as possible is my advice, and get the hell out of it.
Yeah, sometimes what can wreck a deal apart from people is people. Is tenants. I actually had a good property. Then I had some tenants move in. They kind of abused the property, and it put a sour taste in my mouth. But it was, I had to go and knock on the door, kick them out, clean up a fair bit of mess, and it wasn't necessarily the deal. But I regretted the decision I made. It's not necessarily the property's fault. It was the fact that I picked the wrong property manager. I think sometimes you may not intentionally do anything wrong. It's the people you have around you that can absolutely stuff it up, and you can also get in your own way. So I guess with that said, it'd be good to say to you that each deal is an opportunity. We may think it's the worst deal, and you get to talk about it today, but it's a good story.
Definitely.
Without doing that terrible deal, you may not be sitting here today, because property changes you. But I think what's important is we keep doing deals. And the key to it would be doing more deals, because that's how you learn. So I think acquisition's it. Guys, it's been a really good episode and good debate. And thank you so much. And we'll see you again on the New Property Show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for this week, and thank you for joining us. If you want to see the full interviews, check out our website, thenewpropertyshow.tv, and we'll see you again next week.